back from that short break. And before we went on a break, we were discussing the recent by-elections and their impact on Uganda's democratic dispensation. And today we have Abel Eseru, a political scientist. And Abel, I hope you're back on. So before we broke off, we were talking about the issue of voter hospitality and sharing of voters from neighboring districts. And we also know that these by-elections had a lot of misuse of state resources and a lot of abuse of state resources. It has become a precedent for resources like personnel and vehicles being misused during elections. What do you think what implications does this have on our democratic dispensation, Abel?
True, personally, I can confirm this that we are having a lot of abuse of state resources in terms of personnel, as I told you. We have people like top government officials going to these districts or constituencies to canvass for votes for their candidates, and you find they move with government vehicles. They have personnel that guard them, which are paid for by taxpayers' money. And also, you will ask yourself, you think these vehicles, what do they move with? They need to be fueled, and who fuels them? These people have government fuel cards, so they just go and fuel the vehicles and do whatever the movements, the kind of movements they do. But also, there is an issue of how do these people get fed? How are they accommodated? Where are they getting the money from in terms of the finances? So you realize we are now trying to have the issue of abuse of state resources becoming also permanent in our elections, and this is really so sad, and it's not good for our country's growth democratically, because the abuse of state resources in an election do compromise the integrity of an election, and in most cases, all I know, they reduce the public trust in the legitimacy and the credibility of an electoral process. That's why you find some people nowadays say, these government people have again come, they're now going to do whatever they want in an election, and we know what is going to happen. So they say these government people have come, this government people have come. They not say maybe these NRM leaders have come. So when they say these government people have come, they know they're driving government vehicles, they're moving with security personnel, and they're canvassing for votes for their own candidates. So you find that people lose credibility and public trust in the electoral process because they know it's now a government that has come. It's not a political party. So that's why you see, although I was telling you initially the security is partly one of the reasons why people are now disinterested in even engaging in elections, but also the abuse of state resources, because people feel like even if you go and vote, they have the money, they have the security, they have the what? All the state machinery has been put in a constituency. So people just losing trust in the process. So the abuse of state resources is one of the issues that is continuously undermining the integrity of our elections. And we need to have a honest discussion as stakeholders, both from the non-state actors and state actors, to ensure that how do we reduce, or how do we make sure that we do away with this issue of abuse of state resources, because it has continuously undermined how our electoral process is being conducted. It has ensured that the playing field is not level, because if you are using state resources and competing against someone who doesn't have access to state resources, how do you expect that person to compete with you? That person will just be not competing with you, but just escorting you, because you have all the state machinery that is helping you move and canvass wherever you want. So we need to have a honest conversation on how can we do away with this issue of abuse of state resources, because it is continuously undermining the credibility of elections, and the public trust in the electoral process is right now very low, because they are saying that wherever you go, they will say this government people have come, not maybe the NRM party secretary has come, or maybe also from the opposition side. Sometimes there are some officials, MPs and what, they also drive. Who funds them? It's government. They have fuel cards from government. So it's two-sided, both the opposition and also the ruling government. The MPs who go there, they use government fuel. They don't use their personal fuel. They are fueled by the government taxpayers' money. So we should not only look at it that it's only from the ruling government, but also from opposition side. These MPs who go to those constituencies, where do they get the fuel from? So the abuse of state resources.
Yes, thank you, Abel. Also, beyond abuse of state resources, we have seen some government officials, in this instance, the Prime Minister, on several cases. I think the first one was in Kayunga. There were allegations of the Prime Minister herself dishing out money to voters late in the night, and it was the same instance in Soroti City East. But nothing seems to happen. You said one of the opposition leaders was arrested for just 2 million. And yet we have seen videos of the Prime Minister herself giving out money. So why is it that there are some people that are untouchable and yet there are others who are touchable?
Before I respond to that question, personally, I for fact, I don't believe that we should have the Prime Minister, the Vice President, and also the President himself engaging in these small by-elections, because these are just by-elections, they're not general elections. And the party in power already has numbers in parliament, even if they lose all these by-elections. Of course, I know it's political capital to go and canvass for votes and try to share, and also again familiarize with the voters, get to them and they see you. But if we have almost all the top leadership of government going to a constituency to campaign for votes, of course, I can't rule out the allegation made by people, maybe the Prime Minister dished out money. I cannot confirm, but it may be possible, because you're going to a constituency as a Prime Minister, and as a Prime Minister, you have some money with you. As a president, you have some money with you. As the vice president, you also have some money with you. So whether this money is being used to bribe voters or other things, I can't confirm. But the issue of using money in our elections is a problem, it's a very big problem, and we need to see how can we limit this, and how can we also ensure that these leaders who are already in government, what role should they be playing in active campaign processes? Should they be involving themselves in by-elections when we have other pressing national issues? I don't think we need to have all of them camp in a small constituency which has less than okay, the highest so far we have was Buchimbiri, Abu Songora South, which had over 50,000 voters. But we Ugandans, we are over 45 million. So if you're going to come as the top leadership, almost all of you camping in a small constituency that has only 5,000 voters, 50,000 voters, why are we leaving the others? The other Ugandans, they have pressing issues. Who is going to attend to all those Ugandans? So I think we need to refocus and think on how can we move forward. Our leaders should not concentrate on all of them camping in small constituencies. They should keep on their focus all on national issues that are pressing. For example, we have had issues in Bugisu, which are the floods. We have issues of hunger in Karamoja. Let's put our efforts there, not on small constituencies, which you can easily win when you go and campaign without even using state resources, and whether using money or what, just carry on your ideology. You see, when you're a dominant party and people believe in you, you have already the infrastructure. Use the party secretariat and those other structures you've built, and also these personnel from opposition, the candidates and those campaign for opposition members. Why should the MPs use our vehicles to buy for them to go and canvass for votes? Why should they use our fuel to accommodate them to move to those constituencies, and also our allowances we pay them to go? So they should not blame only government. That's only government that is using state resources, but even the MPs in opposition and those, some of the leaders in opposition are using our government fuel because we have voted for them using taxpayers' money. So they are crying foul, but they are also the reason why we are still abusing state resources for partisan politics.
All right, thank you, Abel, for your submission. It's good to have you back. I hope your internet is stable now. Can you hear me, Eddie?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I have a very unstable internet. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, so for the past 40 minutes,
Yes,
we've been
I
looking
can hear you.
at some of okay. We've been looking at some of the electoral integrity deficits that we have seen so far in the by-elections, and Abel shared quite a number. But from your point of view, Eddie, what stood out the most in terms of these deficits? What's that one big integrity deficit that you can't get past that you've seen in the by-elections? Yes, Eddie, can you hear me?
Thank you, Lisa. In my opinion, if I'm allowed to be genuine, I really do not think.
Well, we
Continuously
seem to have
learn.
lost Eddie again. He's
No, I'm there.
okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I was saying that we do not seem to continue wasting taxpayers' money to hold elections in Uganda's electoral context or governance context, because we have continuously come to believe that elections is a waste of time. And I have always shared my sentiments that in Uganda we have selections vis-a-vis a situation where we're supposed to have elections, because by the time we go to elections, probably the winner of that election is known. Look at what happened in Gogonyo, in Soroti, and in Busongora yesterday. Almost the winner was known before the election was done. So I really don't think we still have to. We better use that money to go for to put up schools, to put up health centers, to make roads. I was looking at the roads in Busongora. They were so badly off. So we cannot be talking about integrity deficits in this. We should be talking about whether we should have elections or not elections in the current democratic context. For me, that's my opinion. And if you look at history has it that in Uganda, it is extremely difficult to win a by-election. Remember that in a general election, we have the state machinery spread over the country. But in a by-election, we have state machinery pointing at only one constituency. The army, the police, the electoral commission, the security agencies, everybody that you can think of that has capacity to influence elections is in that constituency. All the money, remember that given what we had in the general elections previously, the current NRM regime is trying to salvage its face and make sure that we win whichever election and in whichever way. Look at what happened in Kayunga. If you recall, results were turned upside down. You know, for me, we cannot talk about integrity deficits. We should be talking about whether we should have elections or not elections. If you compare with what happened in Kenya, you can imagine they are trying to have a dispute over whether the 14,000 electoral votes should be added or should not be added. But here in Uganda, we're talking about whether we should lose millions or add millions to an electoral poll for a candidate to win. You know, those are totally different contexts, and we seem to be digressing from democracy principles. And I cannot see any deficit you're talking about. I can only advise ourselves to rethink whether we should have elections or not elections. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Eddie, for that interesting thought. I don't know whether Abel agrees with the notion of not having elections at all. And Abel, I wanted to ask you something about Gogonyo, Palisa. I think we saw the opposition candidate give up at the last minute. And this is just after the opposition leaders had come up to create a front where they agreed that for the remaining by-elections, they would front one candidate. What does this say about, what does the pulling out of the opposition candidate in Gogonyo say about the opposition and their arrangement?
First of all, we need to understand that politics has become a business. So me as a candidate, I can decide to go and tell them that I want to stand for you as a political candidate. But when my ambitions and aspirations are very different from what the political parties or opposition stand for, because maybe I might be positioning myself there to just be bought off, get the money, which I want maybe to start off with my lifestyle and other things, and I proceed with my life. So I want to tell you that nowadays some of the candidates have realized that since the ruling government is good at fetching some of them, so they position themselves so that they can only, so long as someone gets a flag for any opposition political party, that's enough for either them to sell themselves off, opposition themselves to be bought off. So once they have agreed to be bought off, in terms of maybe they agree on how much money they want or what kind of maybe government position they should be given in any ministry or anywhere else, they tend to say, okay, for me now, I am not going to stand because I've consulted ABCD. I've consulted maybe with my family, maybe with my cultural leaders, maybe with my voters. So I've decided not to stand. I'm going to withdraw from the race. For me, that doesn't rhyme in my head even for a single second. Because first of all, before you come and stand as a candidate, before you even show interest, the first thing you do is to consult before you're nominated. Consult from your family, consult from your friends, consult from the cultural leaders you think who have to endorse you, and also before you go to any political party, because it's through consultation that's when they will guide you that which party do you think I can win from if I go to this political party. So when you get a political party flag and then you tell us that now you go and consult, so you did not consult before even going to look for a political party. So for me, that doesn't rhyme in my head. That was just a mockery. Some of these candidates are just using political parties as umbrellas or special purpose vehicles to achieve whatever means they are up to. Because you cannot tell me you did not consult. So that candidate of Okonjo withdrew and decided to fake the opposition political parties or the alliance of the political parties had its own intentions, because there's no way you can tell me in any democracy whereby you go as a candidate, like today me, I want to go and contest, and then I say, let me go to this political party, get the flag, then I go and consult from my family members, from my voters, from my over cultural leaders, because I have first to weigh the ground. Which political party is strong? If this political party is strong, can I be able to get this flag? If yes, I go for it. If no, which one is plan B? So I have first way from the voters and also the opinion leaders, the what on ground. So by the time I get that, that's when I will now say, okay, let me now one contest. But we have candidates who have mastered the art of making sure that they position themselves to get the party flags and sell themselves off, or accept to be bought off, or they make sure that they use those party flags to look for jobs within government.
Yes, Abel, just a quick one. Did this arrangement between the opposition parties come into play in Busongora and Bukimbiri? Did their arrangement actually work?
Of course, in Buchimbiri, the arrangement was there. The initial candidate who was about not more than 20 years. He was a youth. So he was nominated as the new flag bearer, but because of the arrangement opposition now has of making sure that if they have a strong candidate, if one candidate is stronger than the other, and maybe they feel that if they compete together they cannot win, then they leave they front one candidate to run. So they left. The candidate was called Owebebe something. I'm forgetting his other name. Who contested in Buchimbiri. But I was again very shocked. The candidate only got 208 votes. So I was asking myself, was this alliance really working in Buchimbiri, or it was just a hoax in that side of Buchimbiri? And in an area, I expected them to unite and front one candidate, and so that they can be able to really give the ruling government good competition. Of course, competition in quotes, because there are other things that make our elections not to look like you're competing for positions in power. You find that they had all strong candidates, because the incumbent, of course, the incumbent was an NRM candidate, but the guy the incumbent replaced was an MP in 2016, who was in FDC, was defeated during the FDC primaries and contested in 2021 as an independent. And then the FDC guy, who was also there, was also a bit strong. So I expected these parties to unite and say, okay, since we have a front and we have decided to agree that let's work together in all our elections, let's look for who is the best suitable candidate and front that candidate. But of course, you know, all these political parties have that element that we are strong, I'm strong, and strong. And sometimes when they weigh the ground and feel like almost all their candidates are strong in terms of numbers of voters they can garner in that election, they tend to forget that they came into an agreement of having fronting one candidate in that election and working together. Because if you look at the election, the votes that they got from yesterday's election in Buchim, I don't have them here, but you find that if this candidate got about 5,000 something votes, the NUP candidate got about 6,000 and something votes. The NRM candidate who won had about 12,000 votes. So you imagine if they had come together as one force and worked together as one force, you never know, they would have garnered together these votes and also maybe gotten some more votes from within the NRM candidate. So the division that they went through again, because of, instead of working together, and then they decided to split because they thought they could win NRM, because NRM is very strategic. Once opposition is divided, that is where they will always split you hands down. But when you come together, that's when you give them sleepless nights. So you find that this opposition have also not mastered that at all. They just speak sometimes on camera, and then when it comes to real action, practicing what they have said, they tend to diverge.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Abel.
Real or
not. Thank you so much, Abel. I don't know if we still have Eddie online. He seems to have gone off, but we are left with just about 3 minutes. And Abel, conclusively, just picking a leaf from the just concluded Kenya elections that we saw were really peaceful and fair, what lessons should we draw from Kenya as a country, as you conclude?
First of all, I would like to say that democracy is not one size fits. Every country has its own way of growing in terms of democratic growth and dispensation. But what I would like to tell people that elections that are recognized as free and fair always ensure that there's peaceful transition of power. That's what we have seen in Kenya. All of them think that elections are free and fair, and that will always usher in a peaceful transition of power. But when you have elections which are looked at as not free, you've battered the people have been killed, people have been arrested, people are not allowed to canvass all over the country to campaign. People are talking of too much money, people are talking of ballot stuffing, all those things, all those electoral integrity deficits. I don't think you will have a candidate who will say, okay, we have competed peacefully and I've been won, so let me allow my opponent to take over power. So there are certain things we need to learn from Kenya. First of all, our candidates themselves, our political candidates who engage in this, who compete in these electoral processes, they need to ensure that whenever they are campaigning, they focus on their manifestos and ideas. That's what they should sell to the people. Not the thing of over dictator, over this one is a ganja smoker, over this one doesn't have what. So that kind of political intolerance and mudslinging won't help us grow anywhere. So we need to focus on issue-based politics. If we are going to campaign, what are the issues you're going to address? Tell us 1, 2, 3. You've told us your issues. Let another also come and tell us 1, 2, 3. Not you coming and then the entire campaign rally is on personality of someone. When you say this guy is like this, that wasn't that was one of the most outstanding thing I learned from Kenya, and I want our leaders to also appreciate and learn that politics should be issue based, not about a character assassinating the other personality. And then also there's the issue of we saw in Kenya, and I want to applaud them again. They had a lot of election observers who were there at play. They observed the elections peacefully. They were not arrested. They were not deported. They were not harassed. They did not refuse to give them accreditation, or they did not attack any of their centers where they were doing their work, like it happened here in 2021. We saw the umbrella group that was formed, that is NEU, National Election Watch Uganda. Where did it end? It was disbanded. So it means like it was showing you like they did not want citizens to observe their own elections, which is a constitutional right. So sometimes I find it very awkward in terms of the way we act as a country, and when you compare to our neighbors. Kenya accredited observers, they observed very well. You find no case of where someone was arrested, but also in terms of how security behaved in the Kenyan elections compared to the Ugandan elections. Did you find any security agency or security official stopping Raila Odinga that don't go to this county? Or stopping Ruto that don't go to this county? You're only supposed to be in this county. Why are you crossing to this county? Compared with what happened in Uganda. You are stopped. They are telling you not going, even by the RDC himself, who does not participate in coming up with the electoral calendar. Even if they participate, but they should respect the electoral calendar, because if the Electoral Commission has gazetted that this is the roadmap, this is where someone is supposed to have his campaigns from, allow the person to go there. Don't start that you're not supposed to use this route. Use this route. You're not supposed. What is that? What you're supposed to do as security agents is to just make sure you protect the candidate, let the candidate treat the venue where he or she's supposed to campaign from, and after campaigns, they live peacefully, and you protect them and also protect the businesses around. That's what you, as police, are supposed to do in Uganda. But what we see here is very different. We find that they block the way and they tell you not going to cross this side. You go and use the other route. So what if you protect the people who are coming with him and tell them, okay, we are going to protect you, make sure you pass here and you go. So the way security conducts itself in our elections should also change, because what we saw from Kenya can be a good lesson for us, but also as voters. As voters in Uganda, and if you compare our voters and those of Kenya, sometimes become tolerant. Intolerant, because you find they start abusing themselves, they start fighting, they are drinking, they are doing all sorts of things which are anti-democratic. And through such things, they provoke themselves, they start fighting, they want to throw stones at each other, whether it's the president, whether it's who. So all those things don't help our democracy, because now, instead of you now uniting and say, let's first put our country first beyond any other thing, you will now start having ethnic kind of politics. Now these ones are from this region, this one is like this. So the politics of personality comes in, ethnicity comes in. So it can never allow you have a peaceful transition of power, because now you will have a clique of people who feel like they are not being they are being sidelined because maybe they are from this region. A certain political party may also feel like, okay, we are also not we are being sidelined because of A, B, C, D. But let's ask ourselves, how do we conduct ourselves as leaders? Do we campaign based on issues, or we campaign based on character assassination?
All right, thank you, Abel. Yes.
Do our electorates also conduct themselves peacefully? Do the security members conduct themselves peacefully? And lastly, before I conclude, even our electoral management body, it needs to be supported. Because if you look at how IEBC of Kenya conducted the entire poll from the campaign period to the last day, you will really see that the country planned for it very well, systematically. Everything moved as planned. But in Uganda here, you'll find the electoral commission going to beg government to want money to hold elections. They tell you there's no money. You want money maybe to buy this, there's no money. So you roll out the roadmap, but there's no money for you to implement that roadmap. So some of the activities that you're supposed to put in place, you skip them. So how do you skip something you planned for? That already causes something which are not, makes elections not to be conducted in a free and fair manner. Because if you're supposed to conduct maybe voter education and there's no money for voter education, and maybe you wait 3 months for election, then that's when you start conducting voter education. How many people do you think will have learned whatever you're trying to do? Very few. So people will not know what to do. They will go there and start sticking things anyhow. That's where you find that this is invalid vote, because you've not given electoral commission ample time. But once you've given electoral commission ample time, you've given them the resources they need in terms of financial, you've trained their personnel, we can be able to conduct elections which are also like for Kenya. But this thing of security is overtaking over the elections. We saw in 2021 the exchanges between the IGP and the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, when the security officers had now they had started stopping most of the campaigns for these opposition leaders. Electoral Commission wrote to them telling them to stop. And then they said, give us evidence of those ones we stopped without maybe them causing chaos or what. So you ask yourself, who is in charge of the elections? Is it Electoral Commission or police? So we need to address the things and learn from Kenya. There are very many things we can learn from Kenya, but because of the time, I think for now I can stop here. But I want to say elections should be a contestation of ideas, not money, not violence, not character assassination. Let's front our ideas. Let's respect the principles of democracy. Let's ensure that we respect all ourselves as political candidates, as political parties, and also let's give our EMB the respect they deserve, because these guys are frustrated. You discuss with some of them, they tell you we are very frustrated because you think you're trying your best, but you see some invisible hands coming to disrupt and disorganize the entire process. Because now you agree with the security that let's do A, B, C, D, but you find they've arrested polling agents. So who is going to sign on the DR forms? Who is going to make sure that they keep that everything moves on smoothly? But also candidates, why should you kick election materials? You know what the law says. If there's anything and you have evidence, wait, that can be a good ground for you to go to court and that election is annulled. But of course, annulling election each and every time will cost taxpayers a lot of money.
Yes, I'm going to have to cut you short. Thank you so much. It's been an interesting conversation. And Ed, even though we had you briefly, it was good to have you on the show. Thank you, all our viewers that tuned in today here at ACFIM. We're very grateful, and we hope to see you next week, the same place and same time. Remember to stay safe, and God bless you all.